So hello and welcome to Ewe Sew You. My name's Zoe and this is my channel all about the crafty bits and pieces I get up to. I knit, I sew, I spin on a drop spindle, I dabble on weaving from time to time, and anything else that takes my crafty fancy. Now this week we are crocheting a cat toy, so grab a brew, put your feet up and let's get started. So welcome back to any returning viewers, and to any new viewers a very warm welcome to you. Now, as I mentioned at the opening to this video, I'm going to be attempting to make a cat toy with crochet today. Now, you will have seen my cats in previous videos sort of pootling around in the background and jumping on top of things. We did have two cats, with Leo and Kiki. They're both from the same litter. But unfortunately Kiki got very ill towards the end of April and we sadly lost her at the end of the month. So we're actually trying to get some more interactive toys sorted out for Leo to make up for the playtime that he had with her. We do have toys for him, we do play with him regularly, we take him for walks out in the garden, that kind of thing. But we're just trying to make sure we've got plenty of things to keep him stimulated now that he's not got his sister around. So what I've got is I have one of these balls with a bell in, which he actually quite enjoys rolling around the floor. We've got a few of these. And I've also got a 4mm crochet hook and some leftover acrylic yarn. This, I believe, is Knit Picks Bravia, which is left over from a hat I knit for my brother for Christmas a few years ago. So it's DK weight yarn and yeah, acrylic. So it's not going to matter too much if it gets messed up. I'm not going to worry about him reacting to wool fibres or getting a taste for wool and getting into my nice yarns. So we're using acrylic. Acrylic has its place. The idea, and we'll see if it works, is to create a little pouch to put the ball in and then do one of those corkscrewy spirally things off the end so that we can use it as like a chase toy and get him running around and playing and being interactive with it. He loves the wands with the mice on the end and the feathers and the caterpillars and things. He loves playing with those with us. So we're hoping that this will be a similar sort of toy for him and give him a bit of variety, because cats do go off toys every once in a while. So yeah, so we'll get the camera turned around and we'll see if I can make this work. So here I've got everything that I need to make my cat toy. I've got my yarn, so it's an acrylic yarn. Any acrylic yarn will do. This happens to be leftover Knit Picks Bravia that I had in stash. It's a DK weight, so I'm using a 4mm hook because that's the hook that I like to work DK with. I like the texture that you get from the stitches. So yeah, play around and see what you like. I've got my plastic ball with a bell in it, which we know he likes, and we know he likes the chase toys. So the idea is to basically cover the whole of this ball and then do a curly string off the end, and then obviously a pair of scissors so we can finish off it when we're done. So I'm going to move the ball out of the way and the scissors out the way. So I'm going to start with Crochet Magic Loop. So I'm going to wrap the yarn around my fingers like you would for a slip knot, and we're going to be working over the tail and the yarn that's attached to the ball when we're crocheting. So to begin, we're going to get our hook underneath this first loop and grab hold of that working yarn that's coming off the ball, and then we're going to grab the yarn again and pull it through. That's our first single crochet US term, double crochet in UK terms, and I'm going to work a total of 6 of those over both the loop and the tail. So there's my next one, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So pull that loop quite large so I don't need to worry too much about the hook. In fact, I'm going to pop that down out of the way. I normally would do it with the hook in place, but just for ease of showing you, this next step is why it's called the magic loop. So you want to hold on to the last stitch you've worked, and like I say, you can leave your hook in there, that's fine. I've just chosen to take mine out for now. We're not going to touch the working yarn at all, so leave that to one side. We're going to take hold of the tail and pull. And then we end up with a little circle of single crochets, and as you continue to work you can pull that tighter, so you end up with no hole in the middle of your work. So it's great for like coasters and things. Let's put my hook back in the loop, and now we're going to pick up the working yarn. I'm just going to retighten that loop, and because I need to make a hemisphere, half a ball of crochet to cover the bottom half of my bell ball, I'm going to increase in every round most likely to begin with. So in my first round I'm going to do 2 single crochet US term, double crochet UK term in each of my first round's single crochets all the way around, so I'm going to end up with 12 stitches. If you want to use a stitch marker to keep your place, by all means do. I tend not to, and then I have to keep counting, but this is so small that's not going to particularly bother me, and being a DK weight is going to work up fairly quickly. Obviously I've picked a dark colour, so just making sure I get into the stitches as I'm crocheting. I have actually purposefully picked a dark colour, as I'm not just making this for the benefit of you guys watching, I am making it for the benefit of my cat. So it's likely to get messy and mucky, so having it dark, it's not going to show up stuff so much. One, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I've now got my 12 stitches, and I'm going to increase again on the next round. So this time I'm going to single crochet once in the next stitch and then twice in the one after it. So we're adding another 6 stitches on. So that'll give us a total of 18 stitches. Okay, so now I have 18 stitches, so again we're going to increase on the next round. So we're going to work 1 single crochet US terms. I'm going to stick with US terms throughout, because I think that's what most people use these days. So 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochet into the 3rd stitch. So again we're going to be adding on a total of 6 stitches in the round. So single crochet, single crochet, and 2 single crochet. So this is going to give us 24 stitches at the end of the round. Okay, so now we've got our 24 stitches, and we see it's starting to dome up a bit. I'm just going to measure it against the ball and see how we're doing. Okay, so it's actually fitting the curve quite nicely, so I'm going to continue in the same way for another few rounds until I'm halfway up the height of the ball. I'll come back to you at that point. Okay, so I've done 2 more rows, increasing by 6 each round, so I've got 36 stitches now. As you can see, because I've kept the rate of increase constant, it's not coming up as much as I had anticipated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back 2 rounds, do a plain round, so with no increases, and see where we're at that point. So this time I actually am going to get a stitch marker in, I think, so that I know where I am when I'm pulling back. So for crochet I like these lockable stitch markers, and you are fully getting to see my experimental process here with crochet. So you stick it in like that. You can get ones without the locking on there, but I like the lockable ones because I can use those to hold my stitches when I leave my crochet project as well. I also went downstairs and grabbed a yarn needle because I'm going to be weaving my end in a bit. So crochet nice and simple to pull out. And move that into the next round down. So we should end up back on 24 stitches once I've pulled out this round. And I'm just going to pop my stitch marker through the loop of the stitch itself now, so that it doesn't pull out any further. See, the yarn is splitting a bit at the moment. I'm not too concerned about it. I'll sort it out when I put my proper hook in. Okay, so yeah, so I will leave a crochet project with a locked stitch marker on it like that, between sessions working on it. Okay, so let's quick count these stitches. So yes, we've got 24 stitches there. So I'm going to take my hook back, take off that stitch marker, and I'm going to work one row of single crochet without any increases and see how we're fitting the ball at that point. So just one single crochet into each loop, into each stitch rather, all the way around. So now you can see we've got a nice little cup shaped bit of single crochet, and it's quite a snug fit on our ball, which goes to just over halfway up. So I'm going to take this opportunity to weave in my end. So I'm going to turn it inside out. I've got my stitch marker holding the working loop, and I'm going to pull it tight just to make sure that there's no holes from that magic loop, and yeah, just weave in the end any which way you like, as long as it's secure. Sometimes I'll go back on myself with the magic loop to just make sure that it's as tight as it can be, but this one seems to have snugged up quite nicely. Sometimes I'll just randomly shove it into a crochet stitch. Because of the way crochet stitches are structured, you can quite easily hide your yarn inside them. You don't have to be too precious about it, and again, it's a cat toy, it's not a fashion item. Okay, so that'll do. Put my needle to one side and just snip off that end, and turn it back the right way out. So the next step is to work decreased rounds. So when we increased, we were increasing 6 stitches each round, and it took us 4 or 5 rounds to get the whole way up to where we didn't want to increase anymore. There's going to be a similar number of rounds to get to the top of the ball, and we want to decrease 6 stitches each time. So we're going to need to decrease every 3 stitches, well, after every 3 stitches. So single crochet in 3 and then crochet 2 together, I believe. So we're on 24, take away 6. Just a bit of maths going on, bear with me a moment. 24 take away 6 is 18. 18 divided by 6 is 3. So yeah, 4 rounds to get to the top. 3 single crochets and then a single crochet 2 together. I'm going to attempt to do this around the ball, so that could be interesting. A little bit more awkward than when the ball's not in there, but as the circumference of the case gets smaller, you're not going to be able to get the ball back in if you don't work the crochet around it. So we've done 3 single crochets. So we're going to put the hook through the stitch, pull the yarn through and leave 2 on the hook. And the same into the next stitch. So we've now got 3 on the hook, and then we're going to yarn through all 3 loops. And we're going to do that all the way around. So single crochet in 1, single crochet in 2, single crochet in 3, pull through, pull through, so that's single crochet 2 together. So I'm going to do that all the way around, and decrease each round by 6 stitches until I'm at the height of the ball. I should hopefully have at that point 6 stitches left. I'll come back to you when I'm at that point. Okay, so we're down to 12 stitches now, so it's now crochet 2 together the whole way around. So pull 1 through, pull 1 through, and then pull through all 3 loops on the hook. We're going to do that until we've got 6 stitches left. Okay, hopefully the noise in the background's not too bad. The guy from the council's out cutting the grass at the end of the road. I actually did a couple of extra crochet 2 togethers to close that top up. So we've ended up with essentially 3 stitches there, but you can't really distinguish them, it's all sealed up. So now I'm going to do a chain for as long as I feel like it's going to be useful. And because it's quite noisy, I'm going to go off camera and do that and come back to you when it's done. Okay, so I've worked a chain, worked 100 chains, so it's quite long. It's about the length of my arm. Not that you can see that on camera, but that's roughly how long it is. A little bit shorter than my arm. So we're going to turn it into a spiral, so it is likely to shrink up a bit, so you can do a little bit extra compared to what you think it's going to be. And the way to make it into a spiral is we're going to actually want to work one more chain just so that I'm working an even number of stitches. So we're going to miss the first chain from the needle, from the hook, and we're going to work into the next chain, and we're going to do 2 single crochets into that chain. The more stitches you do into each chain, the curlier this cord is going to be. But I'm just going to work 2 into each one all the way down, and it should start to spiral as I go. So that will mean that the cord on the toy is a little bit more substantial than just the chains, because Leo does like to bite the cords on his one chase toys, so we want to make sure it's as sturdy as possible. So I'm going to keep going with this all the way down the length of the chain, so I will have single crocheted 200 by the time I get there, and as you can see it's starting to spiral up, so I'll come back to you when I'm back at the ball end. Okay, so there's still quite a bit of noise outside, but hopefully it's not too distracting. I've got to the end of my spirally thing. Some bits going a little bit wonky, that's a tension thing I believe. All I've got left to do now is secure the yarn at this end of the ball. So what I'm going to do is, where you can see the chains coming out of that side of the ball, I'm going to go over to the other side of that top of the ball and just shove it under anywhere and work a single crochet. Then I'm going to pull a big loop so that it doesn't fall out, and I'm going to cut my yarn a little bit away from that loop. I'm going to pull that through, tighten it up, and weave in the end. And yeah, that's my little cat toy done. Once this is woven in, as I say, you can pretty much shove your end anywhere when you're weaving in with crochet, particularly for something like this project. Just going to make sure I've woven it in quite a few times. Obviously we don't want it to come undone. So I'm going to cut my yarn quite close to the ball, so I'm going to put it tight and then trim next to where the crochet is, that way the end disappears inside. And there we have it, one crocheted cat chase toy with a bell. So I hope you found that useful and interesting. I'll let you know how Leo gets on playing with that toy, most likely in a future video, like my monthly roundup of what I've been working on. If you've enjoyed spending time in my company, I aim to put a video out every weekend. As I say, once a month is a roundup of what I've been working on the previous month, but in between times it's videos a bit more like this, where I delve into a technique or a project that I'm working on and show you how I do it. And I'd love to see you in the next video, so like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff down there. I will see you next time, but in the meantime, happy crafting and bye-bye for now.